Nikon made a rather huge announcement this morning, but before we get into that announcement, let's go back in time. October the 28th, 2021, Nikon announced the Nikon Z9 full-frame mirrorless flagship camera. Then a few months later, about a week and a half before Nikon started shipping the Z9, we get an announcement of a professional-grade 800mm lens, the Nikkor 800 f6.3 VR SPF lens. And this morning, in the early hours of this morning, Nikon released the 800mm f6.3 VR SPF lens. And there's some really noticeable specifications that you're going to really love about this lens. First, let's talk about weight. At 5.25 pounds, it weighs considerably less than Canon's announced 800mm f5.6. And while it's about a third of a stop wider, the Canon 800mm f5.6 weighs in at 9.9 pounds, or about 4.5 kilograms. So the Nikkor 800mm f6.3 is half the weight. But the really big news is the price. The Nikkor 800mm f6.3 cost $6,500. Well, it can be, I'm rounding up, it costs just under $6,500, but the reason why I'm rounding up is just to compare it against the Canon 800mm f5.6. That lens costs just under $17,000. $6,500 compared to $17,000, it's a third the price. That's a significant difference. Both are L-series lenses. Yes, there are some similarities, there are some differences. And in some cases, for example, a Canon, you get an f5.6 versus a 6.3, but when it comes to stabilization and other aspects, well, it looks like the Nikkor wins out. And again, this is on paper. We do have to wait to see how both of these lenses performs by independent reviews, and I think some of those are starting to trickle out right now. $6,500 versus $17,000. At $17,000, me as an ordinary filmmaker or photographer, videographer, just can't even look at budgeting the Canon. But at $6,500, wow, that's a completely different ballgame. While still very expensive for the ordinary filmmaker and photographer or videographer, if you are all about wildlife, $6,500, it's something that's attainable. It's something that you can budget for in the future. And if this is your profession, well, $6,500 just keeps more money in your pocket. Well, you can go ahead and pre-order the Nikkor 800mm f6.3 today using my links down below for B&H. It isn't going to start shipping until April the 22nd later this year. So April the 22nd, 2022, which is that's just about 2-3 weeks away. So you can have that in a jiffy. So buy one for yourself, your wife, your kid, your hamster. At $6,500, we can get 3 of them for the price of the Canon 800mm f5.6. It maintains a high resolution even when a teleconverter is attached, has built-in optical VR mechanism that demonstrates a high image stabilization effect of 5.0 steps. And when you combine this with the Z9, you get 5.5 steps of image stabilization. STM is adopted to realize high speed, high performance, and quiet AF drive. It's weather resistant, so that's protected against dust and drip, moisture performance, but there is no IP rating, and I really wish camera companies would start giving us an IP rating so we know exactly what we can expect in terms of protection. It's equipped with 4 function buttons for further customization, and it's equipped with a memory function recall that allows you to instantly adjust the registered focus position by registering the focus position and pressing the set button. And for videographers and ordinary filmmakers, it's designed for video recording such that it reduces the focus breathing and stabilization of exposure. And I love that it's reduced the focus breathing. It's amazing how some really high quality professional grade lenses have a rather significant amount of focus breathing. I was just talking about the Canon RF 50mm f1.2, a lens that will cost you about $3,400 Canadian or about $2,300 US. Incredible lens, incredible sharpness. So little aberration. It's just a truly incredible lens, but the focus breathing is incredible. The focus breathing is so strong, you would swear that it's an actual zoom lens. So it's really good news that Nikon's really thought about videographers and filmmakers with this lens, because a lot of us, we're not just taking photos of wildlife, we want to capture the video. It really is magical when you can get in really close. You can get up close with great color, with great sharpness. It's just, the results are truly amazing. The Nikkor 800mm f6.3 PF VRS lens, truly incredible. It's half the weight of the competition, and it's the third of the price of the competition, $6,500. I couldn't afford this lens right now, but in a year or two, as this channel continues to grow, $6,500 is something that I could put on my roadmap. It's something almost attainable. But $17,000? There's very few of us that can afford to spend $17,000 on a lens, let alone the camera. Imagine $17,000 plus the Canon R1, the R3, or the R5 really makes this a very, very expensive proposition, especially when you add in all the accessories, the tripod, the storage. $6,500. I think that's groundbreaking. And this is really kind of a nod to Nikon. When they came out with a Nikon Z9 at a price of $54.99, $1,000 less than the competition, $1,000 less than the Canon 1DX Mark III, $500 less than the Canon R3, $1,000 less than the Sony Alpha 1. The world took notice, and Canon has taken notice as well. How can Nikon release their full-frame mirrorless flagship camera for $1,000 less in this market, in this climate, in this economic situation? And here they've done it again, with Canon announcing their 800mm f5.6 for $16,999. Nikon could have said, yeah, let's do it for $14,000 or $13,000. But no, they came in at a staggering $6,500, a third the price of the competition. And that's truly remarkable. I think what Nikon is trying to do here is it's trying to bring back a lot of people that have left the brand. They're trying to attract people entering the space. And while the market is contracting, Nikon is not producing garbage. They're producing really good quality cameras and lenses, and they're pricing them to get people to come back to the Nikon system. And I got to admit, $6,500, you can get the Nikon Z9 and the 800mm f6.3 PF VRS lens together for less than the price of the Canon 800mm f6.3. And that's just absolutely staggering. And at that price, you can buy an Angelbird AV Pro CF Express card. You can buy a tripod, and a good one too, like the 504X with aluminum tripod, the Manfrotto. I'm just truly staggered by this price proposition. Anybody out there who's really interested in the 800mm at a professional series where the sharpness from the center to the edges is bang on with very little aberration in any way whatsoever, you got to be looking at the Nikon and saying, wow, if I get the Z9, the 800mm, a Manfrotto tripod with a 504X and aluminum tripod, and a 1TB Angelbird AV Pro CF Express card, I can do this for right around the same price as a Canon 800mm f5.6 by itself. But again, until we get more independent reviews of both of these lenses side by side, it's really, really hard to tell. We've seen this in the past before, where Canon is able to match the competition with specs that seem somewhat limiting. So we do have to wait and see some of the results. So take a look at DP Review, take a look at Gordon Laing for in-depth coverage of these lenses side by side. But that's it for now. I want to thank you for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. And if you're still watching, do me a big favor. Go ahead and subscribe. It really does help this channel grow. But not only that, as soon as new news comes out, by clicking subscribe and choosing all notifications, you'll be aware of the news as soon as it comes out in video form so that you don't have to go scouring the internet to find the latest and greatest. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.